How's it? I'm Honan,
I'm Oliver.
and this is episode 18 of the Kpop podcast. And we are going to be talking about Queendom episode 0. We're going to talk about the intro performances, our opinions on them, talk about the groups that are all in Queendom 2, and then kind of predictions, I suppose, after that. So starting off with the intro performances, I kind of just refreshed my memory of all of them and have my order in my head. But before I list out all the order, I'll let you go ahead and say a little bit about them.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go in the order that they happened, or like the order that I remember seeing them. So because they uploaded them on 2 separate days, I think they uploaded 3 first and then the other 3. So they at first they uploaded, was it?
I saw Hyolin's first.
Oh, did you? I think Hyolin was last.
So I think I got the playlist order, and I think I started from last
the other way around,
to first. Yeah.
So it was Brave Girls, Luna, and I think was it Viviz? I think were uploaded on the first day, and then Kepler, WJSN, and Hyolin were the second day. I guess we can go through each one and just talk about how we thought it was. So I guess we'll start with start with Luna because I feel like Luna probably the most was the most talked about, right? So I thought Luna's was pretty neat. I noticed that they incorporated a bunch of different choreography moves from their previous songs, which was a cool little kind of Easter egg, like a little bit of just some background of different songs that they'd done. But I wasn't like super crazy about it. I wasn't like it was, it's obviously really cool, and they're fantastic at being so synchronized for a 12-member group. But I wasn't sat there blown away thinking like, oh my god, Luna are going to clear this competition so hard, which I feel like a lot of orbits kind of feel like they will. But yeah, it was solid, and I think it ranks like kind of in the middle.
It was good, but there was, like you're saying, it wasn't like a super memorable one out of all of them for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to even remember what the song was. It was like, but yeah, they had like kind of that all white outfit. It was very like ethereal looking, kind of the way they're all synchronized.
Yeah, but then the moves were badass and like hard, right? I also. And I've kind of I've had this with Luna occasionally in general, is that it sometimes does kind of feel like Heejin is very prominent, like a lot. And for a 12-member group, it's like that's noticeable when one member is getting so much time. And she had this like whole like close-up scene and everything. And so obviously, if you're going to do that, someone's going to do it, and she is like very prominent in general in the group, but it did if it's meant to be showcasing Luna as a whole and like teasing what they're going to be about. Like I wouldn't want it to just be like a Heejin and the girls performance, Yeah.
I feel like maybe they're just like, it makes sense if they just saving, they're not.
Yeah, I mean,
it's opening performance things. So
ultimately, these intros don't mean anything. They're there to generate hype for the show. They have no as far as I'm aware, anyway, they have no bearing on anything that happens in the show. And I remember how they were used for the original series, and how different everyone approached that with. Like Lovely's and Oh My Girl did very like classic them type performances, and Idol suffered from the same criticism I was just going to make, in that Soyeon had like an extended rap to the ROB by herself, and then she was part of the dance break as well, and it was like, okay, but there are other members.
It's Soyeon and the girls and the intro.
A little bit. But I remember the one that really got me going for that was Mamamoo. Like they had that whole like a cappella song where they were just like sitting calmly on their chairs, and they had like written it was a whole new song that they'd written just
flexing their vocals on everyone.
Yeah, like that was like this is what Mamamoo is about. Like it captured their vibe perfectly, and it got you hyped, being like, oh, what are they going to do on the show? Which
the thing with Luna's was they could have flexed a little bit of like the vocal and dance together, because they have some singers who can like hit some really high notes and
Yeah.
stuff. So it was like kind of interesting how it was all just very, it was all, well, everyone did just dance, really. I never saw any of them that did vocal related stuff in any of their
Yeah. And that's kind of a shame, right? Because like I remember for like Park Bomb obviously just came up and like belted out was it Spring, I think it was, that she did for her intro performance, and it was like, oh, okay, like here we are, like something instantly recognizable, familiar, and like quintessentially her. But I just felt like we were just getting dance breaks that you would see in the middle of like a mama stage, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like I don't want to just see extended dance breaks from groups here. Like I want to see more than that.
I'm hoping the opening performance kind of got that out, and that's not a lot of what we get in the show or something, you know, like the real show. It gave me, because it reminds me, the Kingdom had like the same kind of opening performance things for each group, but except theirs was like specifically one or two members or something, right? If I remember the Kingdom ones correctly, they had like not the full group sometimes for the opening performance things. I think some of the groups used just like their dance members
maybe
for the Kingdom one, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm hoping we don't get like the Kingdom style performances the whole series, where it was like always so like about how epic can the choreography be, or something,
that was the issue with Kingdom, was that it kind of went too far in the opposite direction, where it became gimmicky. It was like, oh, what kind of ridiculous thing can we bring in now? Let's bring in the freaking Kraken.
Can we all do backflips over this?
Yeah,
or something,
it became not about a song and performing a song, but it just became about trying to do the most outlandish things and using some kind of crutch or gimmick somewhere to try and make it look cool. So I don't think that will happen. But having seen, obviously I won't spoil the round one performances yet, but at least I know that there's going to be some good variety from what we see there, except for Luna's, of course, which I haven't seen, so I don't know. And I know that they are going to be more dance focused than probably any of the other groups there. I'd say that they're the most dance.
Yeah, they have 12 members too, so it's
but it's kind of always been the thing that they've been known for, is being like particularly good dancers, and they have a lot of quite intricate choreography and stuff. Like they can do a lot with it, but I hope that it doesn't become the focus. I hope the song is still going to be what they focus on.
Yeah, the thing is with Luna, I feel like they could do something kind of cool where they give you a good mix of the two or something, you know? Like they could have the really good singing members almost maybe statically sing and then switch over to like the dance members doing something. They have the capability because they have so many members and stuff.
Yeah, you could do a lot of really interesting things. And I think if I was like a stage manager or performance director for Luna, I would be like blessed to have so much that you could do to work with. You could form so many different units on stage at different times, and so much you could do with it. So I definitely think that they have like a lot of things that they could show if everything comes together nicely. I think probably more than possibly anyone else in terms of like versatility, what they can bring to the table.
Yeah, I agreed with their opening performance. It was obviously good. It was just nothing like super memorable out of the intro videos, which I would say only two of them to me are like super memorable. We'll wait. After we talk about all of them at the end, I'll give a ranking. But I guess the next one we should go into would be the group that called themselves similar to Luna when we watched the episode, which would be JSN.
Okay.
And I thought theirs was really interesting because of how it started, kind of with all of them rotating around, like, I think it was a sun, like, on the stage. And I just thought, like, the way that started was instantly like, okay, this is going to stick in my memory, you know, like, the start of it right away was like, okay, this is cool. Like, this is how you impact me instantly from the get-go.
And did it have, like, that slow they just changed the frame rate, right? Well, I think was it Solar? I think was turning the hourglass.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
something like that. Sorry. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed WJ Sense as well, and I think it really showed that they've been in this for a minute now. You know, I think people perhaps don't give WJ credit as like senior artists or whatever, but like they've been at this for 6 years, and they certainly kind of showed like a very refined and clean performance that, you know, it is fitting of like a show like Queendom. I think that we just have a lot. Despite that, they have a lot to prove, because of that people don't really credit them as being a senior group at the moment, being a third gen mainstay that admittedly hasn't had as many comebacks in recent years as they might have liked, at least as a full group. But there's a lot that they can show, and I hope that this gives the situation a bit of a boost, because otherwise they could well be faced with the 7-year curse coming up for them, right? Like if they don't have much of a further kick to show the world how good they are, at least it'll show Starship how good they are.
I feel like they will have to have like an episode where they have a major impact, or maybe even win outright or something, because we saw Lovelyz do really good on Queendom, like the original one, and then still kind of end regardless. Like if they didn't have like, because Lovelyz didn't have like the oh my girl impact after Queendom, right, where it was like a massive career boost.
They didn't. The issue was with Lovelyz on Queendom was that they kept wanting to do styles that they weren't known for. So they were, you know, they started off with like the sexier version of At You, and then they did the Sixth Sense cover.
And Obliviate came out or whatever, right?
Obliviate was the follow-up song, like a year plus later. But people criticized them on Queendom, saying, "Oh, this isn't what their fans wanted. They just wanted At You." Basically, and so their most successful performance was Cameo, right? Like that like musical styled one, which is like really bright and fun, and it was great, and justifiably so. And then they had their song Moonlight, which had like by far the least budget out of the stages at the end. Like Woolim didn't put much in. I think Woolim were the ones who came and actively complained about how Mnet like didn't give them as much budget as they thought, and the companies had to pay themselves and stuff. And then they didn't release that song at all. Then they didn't give them an album for a year, and then it was Obliviate, which I think is a great song and it's on a great album, but the fan base that was already kind of alienated and had fallen out of touch then was further pushed away, so it was kind of doomed from that point, unfortunately.
Sounds like really bad management, to be honest.
I mean, a lot of fingers I think can rightfully be pointed at Woolim for a lot of that, but yeah, I think WHSN certainly have more creative control at this point. I think from having watched like the behind the scenes of when they were making the Unnatural album, of which like several of the members are credited on as lyricists and composers, it's definitely something that they're involved with themselves. Like even if it's not like her song, for example, like Exy will be sitting in the studio like giving guides and helping and directions for the members recording and stuff. Like they definitely are involved, and they want to do different types of songs and do them in certain ways. So yeah, and I think perhaps the one I'm really looking forward to most out of each round, what I'm looking forward to most for WJSN is going to be the like fan choice round, the Fandora's box as it was called in the first show, where the fans pick like a B-side or something that they want them to perform, because I would kill to see WJSN do a full pantomime performance, because
you just send like a million letters of pantomime.
Well, they themselves, when they were doing their their intro video, they said like, oh, if we had to recommend one song of ours for anyone who doesn't know us to check out, it would be Pantomime. And I think that's a pretty ringing endorsement. In my opinion, it's one of like the best K-pop songs that there's been in the last like 10 years. Well worth checking out, but it would be really cool to see a full performance of that, because I've only seen like an acoustic version of it that they performed, that some of them performed. So that's an exciting prospect, and I hope that comes to fruition. But
I think a really cool thing they could do, and I hope they do it, is I loved both the subunit comebacks.
To swap them.
Yeah, I think it would be easy. I think if they did like easy into like the Chokome like subunit song or something, like if they mixed that somehow, it would be super cool. Like that real kind of darker side into like the full trot song. They have a lot of potential that they could do.
I was just thinking like having the two subunits, but just the members swapped.
Yeah.
But just having like all the sexy ones doing humph. And then all of the cute ones doing easy.
It would be great.
Yeah, but I think they have a lot to show. They have a lot of things that they could show. It's a shame that they're so under strength. It's the downside to them. Like we saw, is that there's the kind of ironic thing in episode 0 of them commenting on Luna being like, "Wow, there's so many of them," and then there's kind of a shot of Exy looking a little bit like wistful. Because she's as the leader, obviously, she's sitting there thinking like, "Man, I remember when we were 13." You know,
how many members do they actively have on the show? It's like
I think that there was 7 there for the first one, but there should be 8 active.
Oh yeah, because they're missing Bona. Is that her name?
Bona won't. I don't know if Bona will be available. I don't know. She might be available for later episodes, but the first one and so was off with COVID. And yeah, it's obviously Bona and Unsa are both Black members, or the Black, I should say. So that that's their vibe more. But and then Dawon is one of the main vocalists, and she's out on an anxiety hiatus, so I don't think we'll be seeing her. And obviously the China line has been absent for
I feel like
it's part of 4 years.
Before I even knew WJSN, I knew Cheng Zhao.
Right.
Like I feel like she's like a face of their group that is not actively in their group. Like it's interesting. Like
yeah, I think she's definitely quite a well-known name even beyond that. And of course, like it would be funny if the China line was to make a grand comeback for this show, because they would bring with them an enormous amount of attention from China.
Yeah.
Xuanyi and Meiqi, especially, and Cheng Zhao are all really famous there. Meiqi's been in a bit of a pickle lately after some decisions that she made and certain things that she said. But even so, she still has a huge fan base. So that would be, obviously it won't happen, but it's fun to think about. Other than that, though, they don't really have the fan base, I think, to compete on the same level. But what they can do, I think, is reawaken what Korea wants loved in them. Because I think there's a time, and every year WJSN comes back to Korean people's minds at the end of every year, because literally like 4 New Years they have like As You Wish will start charting again, because it's like a tell me your wish type song.
Gotcha.
So like New Year's wishes type song. So it always starts charting, and then we'll like it, and so I mean like it will chart to like it will hit number 1 sometimes like randomly, and that song was like 5 years old or 4 years old.
If you can make like a Christmas or New Year's hit, that's lifetime. Like you just every year. Oh, yep.
Yeah. That's why Cherry Blossom Ending is the most like downloaded song of all time in Korea, because every spring when the cherry blossoms come out, which is supposed to happen this weekend, incidentally, that song starts charting again.
Yeah, it's like every
Koreans are very sentimental.
Well, it's like inevitable in the US too. Every time Mariah Carey in Christmas time.
Yeah. Like, that happens here. That happens here as well. Yeah. It's Mariah Carey, Sunbae Nim is competing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about all there is to say for WJSN. I think. Yeah, I think they have a very strong and varied lineup as well. I think Yeonjung and Subin will be the vocal carries here, but they're both really strong. Like, absolutely don't count them out vocally. And Exy, of course, is a really, really good rapper, and they have a really strong core as well, who can flex to a lot of different kind of roles. They can be cool and sexy, and they can be energetic and bright. So there's a lot they can do, and I'm excited to see how they hopefully see them pull it off.
Yeah, I don't like you're saying. I don't think the fan base will be big enough to give them like an outright win in any of the rounds or anything. But I do think they can earn like a lot of respect if they have some really awesome performances.
Yeah, for sure.
Which would be cool. I hope that's what happens. Fingers crossed. Who would be good to move on to next? I'm trying to think. Well, let's talk about all the big groups. I guess let's go to Kepler, like all the large amount of members.
Okay. Big in that sense, yeah. Okay, so Kepler, I thought. Again, I won't give my thoughts on their round one performance until we do a review of that next week.
Yes, because you've seen them and I have not seen them perform.
Yeah. I thought their like intro performance thing was actually pretty good. I thought that it did what an intro performance should do, because it was very much saying, hey, literally saying like, we are Kepler and we're here to do this, like this is what we're about. And I liked that kind of confidence. But it wasn't very clean. It felt like an amateur, not amateur, that's harsh. It felt like a rookie's performance. And because at times, some members were offbeat, and some things didn't quite look as clean and as synchronized as they should have been. Perhaps, for whatever reason, they didn't have enough time to practice properly or whatever. But I know that they had members in and out recently with COVID as well, I think. But I do think that it was a good starting point for them. And I think if they can carry that kind of confidence, like sincerely, into the show and not be kind of daunted by the prospect of competing so soon after debut with some notable seniors, it's the best way for them to handle themselves on the show, I think. Because I think overall, in terms of like in terms of ability, I don't think they can really stand up to the other groups vocally or dance wise, really, not as a whole group. They have certain members who are strong, but I'm looking at that, like the amount of people that we talked about before, like Luna's vocals in like Chu and Hasu. I don't see that, or I don't see Subin or Yeonjong in the same way in Kepler.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to come through as a unit and work really well and put on really tight, well choreographed and like harmonized performances to compensate for the fact that they don't have like crazy standout vocal or dance or rap prowess.
Yeah, for anyone who's seen any of the previous episodes or anything, I've been a little salty about Kepler before. Obviously, I don't actually care that much. I would say I was pleasantly surprised. I thought their intro performance was good, and yeah, if they carried over and they had performances that surprised me in the sense like their intro one was solid, then I would say they did a good job throughout Queendom. Like if that's the kind of energy they have going through the whole show, and I'm just kind of like, okay, that was like actually that was good or something, then because that's where my expectations are. I'm not expecting to get like absolutely blown out of the water by Kepler in the show.
Yeah.
So if they're just like super solid all the way through, I'll be like, okay, yeah, they did a really good job or something.
Yeah, and it's more or less what we said when we did our Girls Planet review, right? Is that while we think that there were other members who we would have preferred to have seen in the group, it doesn't mean that we're here to hate, and we want them to do well, and like I want to see Kepler reach their potential. And I think it's another thing about it is that they're very young, and it was kind of made the point that of how young like Yeso is or how young Hikaru is, and that shows how much potential that they have, like, and how good an experience this will be for them to learn from their seniors in like one of the most direct ways possible by competing with them. It's like, if you want to get really good at something, competing directly against someone who is really good and better than you is probably the best way that you yourself will improve. Especially when you have a big established fan base already, and you have, it's kind of like being surrounded by yes men, right? It's like no matter what you do, you have fans who are there to support you and everything. So you're not feeling, you wouldn't feel as pushed to improve because
Yeah, I have to wonder if they have a performance that isn't like great, like you're saying, if something's off time a little bit or something, but they're just like energetic. If there will be fans, they'll be like, "Oh, well, it's just like youthful energy or something," or something
and,
like
that.
It's
it's not the, obviously like that's fine too. It's like if your performance is good and your stage energy is good, then sometimes it doesn't matter. You don't, it's better to have a really charismatic performance than to be like robots and just being perfectly in sync. And like being perfectly in sync is like, impossible, but it's how you look while you're doing it as well. It's like if a mistake is noticeable, then it's a bad mistake. If there's not enough drawing my attention to where I'm supposed to have my attention drawn, and I notice someone who's not center is off time, it's like, well, then the center is failing their job as well as the person who is off time, right? Like, so stuff like that is a concern of mine for them.
I was gonna say, if they had Bora in their group, they would have had a lot more vocal prowess that they could have used. It's last time I swear. I have to wonder though, because there's like, so other groups that were like considered, like people talked about, were like Stacy and some other like fourth gen groups. And then I guess where my comparison comes in my brain is like, I see a group like Stacy or someone like that where I think the ceiling is so high and the talent is so good in the group. I don't know what the ceiling is for Kepler, like, because I don't know what the talent comparatively is to a group like Stacy or like someone like that,
And it's bizarre, and it feels like, because I think perhaps the reason we're so critical about Kepler is that we obviously watch Girls' Planet very closely, and as a result, it feels like we have more of a insight into them and their practice and their personalities, kind of, and just knowing about them a little bit more than we would a group like Stacey, for example. So it's easy. It feels easy for us to put our like Sunmi and Tiffany hats on and start like being being mentors and criticizing them. But I think the other downside is that when I talk to them, having a ceiling, and we don't know where that ceiling is that they can grow into, it's then of course how finite their timeline is. That it's like, where are they going to go? Obviously, we're now talking about them beyond just the show, but I think the show is going to be really, really beneficial for them, and perhaps after their 2.5 years are up, we'll look back and say, well, without Queendom, I dread to think where they would have gone. But because of Queendom, hopefully they reached really good heights and did really well because of it. And obviously we'll get a new song at the end of the show, so we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think me or you care about who wins the show or anything. It would just be great if it was good for all the group's careers involved.
I don't care at all about a winner. The only thing I don't want to see anyone eliminated. That's the one thing I'm interested in.
It would be really lame if someone actually got eliminated in the show. I think like,
Bomb came close before, but
but she survived. Did. I still feel bad for Park Bom because I just don't feel like that was fair to like the Kepler. Before we finish talking about them, I feel like Kepler could have an IZ*ONE style career if things went really amazing on like Queendom, because I forget, like IZ*ONE kind of is like a template for what their group is, really. Like they have that small amount of time, and I didn't watch the show that created IZ*ONE, but maybe if I had seen that, I might have had like the same opinion going into the creation of IZ*ONE, and then as they release stuff, I would have been like, oh, okay, you know what, they're killing it or something. So Kepler totally has the potential to do that, where they release some stuff. I'm like, but I don't know, because IZ*ONE to me, when I saw it, there was some really talented members that we've seen do solo stuff now and things like that. I don't know what's going to happen as far as Kepler and all
that. Obviously, the other thing to remember is that that IZ*ONE was rigged, right? Oh, yeah. So there was an impact of like our members getting chosen that might not have made it otherwise. It actually might be an interesting experiment if perhaps as a stream thing if you to for you to watch Produce 48 and see how you think about it. See if there were anyone who stood out really to you that you think, it would have been good to see them make it. Not least because you'd be watching that and then being like, oh look, these people are now like members of Bugaboo. These ones are now members of Lightsum. These like so many of the people from 48 have debuted since. And it's also very entertaining because it's like all the AKB 48 girls and so on are there watching these Korean trainees, like 16-year-old girls, like throwing ass and like going absolutely ham in the like evaluation, and they're just like, oh shit, we're in way, we've never been trained in singing or dancing, nothing. We're like, I know how to be cute, and they're we're screwed. Like, and they're audibly saying that to each other. They're just like, should we go home? Like, I'll pack the bags, like. So,
no, yeah, it would be interesting. I should watch that show, especially since I've checked out Eyes One After so many times, and like the individual solo stuff from is it Yoonbi, right, and Yena. I've checked out a lot of the solo stuff.
To have a comeback, incidentally.
Yeah, I've thought all the solo stuff I've seen from their members is very good. So yeah, I should watch that show. It's just, isn't it just Produce 101 basically?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just the next girl season of but they called it 48 because of the AKB.
Oh yeah, it's Produce 48, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's basically like Produce 101 season 3 : Produce 48 is like a way to think about it.
Yeah, it'd be a good one to watch, especially like just so I have an idea of. Maybe I'll have the same opinion I did when I watched Girls Planet, where I'll be like, she should have been in the group or something like.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely feel bad for the one who was rigged out, or there were two who were rigged out. One of whom is now in Lightsum, and the other used to be. well, you'll see.
Yeah,
you'll see it.
I'll see it.
Yeah.
Who is good to talk to after that? So we still have Hyolyn, and we still have Viviz and Brave Girls.
Yep.
All right. Let's leave Hyolyn for last, since she's the solo member. So let's go into Brave Girls real quick.
Okay.
I thought Brave Girls, it's memorable to me not because I thought it was amazing, but because I remember that they did like a Michael Jackson routine basically.
Yeah, they brought the hats out.
Yeah,
so Brave Girls' performance to me was like it felt like they put it together in a hurry. That was the vibe I got from it. And I think it's going to be important to remember when, especially for the first couple episodes, is that Brave Girls were not in tip-top shape going into it, because we had Min Young had to go out on a hiatus, and they never actually announced that she was coming back from a hiatus. So before I saw the round one performances, I was questioning if she was even going to be there. Yeah. She is there, but she very clearly is not up to 100% with whatever health issues that she was. Some health issues that she'd been having. That was why she went on this like little break, and it wasn't very long. It must have only been a couple of weeks before she came back, and clearly she wasn't fully up to things. Not only that, but they had just released an album and have been promoting it. So they've been having to do that on top of Queendom filming, and then I think everyone except had COVID as well again.
Yeah, so it's crazy like, how COVID
it's been a
so much.
And I must have thought, I think looking at it, it's like they didn't have as much time to practice as they might have wanted for this, and maybe they threw it together, but they look great. It gives an interesting vibe, but I did feel like it was kind of like, I don't know, is it they're like the like use of like rolling in the
that was
remix it was like, why? Like we know now, like, you know.
I didn't want Roland to be used at all because I wanted Roland to be like that thing when they do roll it out, no pun intended, that it would be like super impactful, like Roland's happening, you know, like, but the way I was like, oh, okay, you used it in your opening performance thing, kind of. I have nothing like really bad to critique it. It was memorable because of the, like, I remember the Michael Jackson like breakdown thing happening, but there was nothing about that made me like super excited for like that was the problem, if anything.
What it actually kind of reminded me of was when Eunji was on the first season. When she was in the dance performance and she didn't have time to prepare her own
when she danced for Park Bom.
Right. But then she didn't even really dance. She just did the group bit, and it just felt like she was they were there, and they clearly had to do it in a hurry. Like that was the vibe I got. I know from having been a fan of Brave Girls for years, and I'll always flex that I was a fan before the Renaissance.
Like Taeyeon.
But when they have, maybe not as much of a fan as Taeyeon, but when they have good amount of time to prepare something, they'll kill it, for sure. And I think that they will surprise people in terms of what they're capable of, because they are like, there's a lot more to them than just kind of like sexy dancers and not even like particularly highly regarded dancers, or like not particularly highly regarded vocalists or rappers, just kind of like, oh, you had a tropical house hit and that was it, kind of thing. That there's a lot more to them than people I think give them credit, and I think they certainly have the opportunity to show that, but they have to make some wise strategic choices in terms of their songs and so on.
I think vocally they can really show off some stuff, because some of the high notes, like I always mess up the name, but it's like Bachiram, right, or whatever.
Chimat
Baram. I always do it like backwards for some reason. But some of the like real high notes in that song, and then any like Brave Girl song I've heard actually usually really has a really high note section where like I feel like they can really flex some of that in the show. It's like one vocalist though who does all those high notes.
Minyoung, and Minyoung is the one who was on hiatus.
They have a bit of an ATs thing going there, where you just have one member who comes in, all right, I'm taking all the responsibility of these high notes.
She's the Jongho of the group. But we saw when she was on hiatus and they performed as three that Yoojung hit it as well. But like I said, Minyoung is not. She was very, very clearly not 100%, and that this applies to round one as well.
Okay.
So for those, because this will air after round one has happened, on when the first episode has happened. So please, anyone, don't judge them too harshly for for their start, because I think there's a lot better things to come. Other than that, I'm not sure what else there is to say about them, really, because I think they can be a bit of a dark horse, because I feel like everyone is probably going to be looking at them and expecting, oh, they'll do Rollin' and they'll do songs that are kind of, their performances will be of a kind of party type vibe, because that's what a lot of their music has been about since the Renaissance. It's all been kind of like disco funk inspired, and they've been like, they've always had like lots of people on stage, and they just kind of have like parties with not massively complicated choreography or anything like that, and they just have a good time with it, which is great to listen to, but it's not necessarily the best suited stuff to a competition show. So I think they can subvert those expectations by doing things that people won't expect. I, for one, would love to see them in the Fans' Choice one come out and do like one of their pre-roll-in songs, like High Heels. I'd die for a High Heels. But or We Ride as well. But We Ride again, it wouldn't. Well, they did like a jazz version of it at an award show, which was pretty cool. And, well, I think they've shown certainly that they can reimagine their songs in different ways from all the award shows that they performed at and stuff. So there's that. But yeah, we'll see.
I do think if they do win a round, it is going to be because they do something like Rollin' and everyone remembers, oh, we all love this song or something, like kind of deal, which is unfortunate. I would hope they win on like a non-round to do with that song, but I do feel like if they do get like a win, it's gonna be because of,
and it's like it's like if Psy was competing on a show like this, and everyone would just be like, hey, remember Gangnam Style? It's just it's very hard to separate from that, even though it's not like quite in one hit wonder type territory. It's like Well, it is the song that like literally saved their career. You know,
There's always that song when you see a group and it's like, all right, when's that song coming on? Like, you know, like
right?
the
But how much is that true for everyone else? Obviously, like
yeah,
you can't really say it for Kepler because they don't have any. And like
yeah,
for Viviz, if you're applying G-Friend songs, well, you have a couple to choose from, right? Like you have Rough or Me Gustas 2 or Naviera, Time for the Moonlight. Like there's lots of kind of iconic G-Friend songs that you would associate with that, right?
yeah,
Same with WJSN. It could be like probably As You Wish, right? But there are other songs that you could associate with them as well. Um, with Hyolyn, obviously, you have a whole host of not Hyolyn's own songs and CSR songs that you could pick from. It's not quite so one note for most of the others, I don't think.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so the onus really is on them. But yeah, like we saw even in episode 0, like when Hassel was trying to talk to them, and she was like, "Hey, we all did the rolling choreo in your in our dressing room," and they're just like, "Yeah, thanks, great, yeah."
Yeah, they're gonna start feeling like Radiohead does about Creep or whatever. Like
Yeah.
as they continue.
The difference being that they don't have the freedom to not perform it
Yeah.
anymore. I'm waiting for Brave Gods to release their own Idiotech.
Man, I did not think I'd be able to bring up Radiohead twice in this podcast. Yeah, I did in another episode. It's like, wow, the Radiohead reference.
Yeah.
When do you get the opportunity? When you talk about a song that someone hates performing for like the millionth.
Yeah.
I don't feel like Brave Girls hates Rolling though. If anything, they probably feel a great, a great respect for it or something because of what it did for them.
It's literally given them a new lease on life.
Yeah,
it's hard to forget that, but I think they do want to be taken seriously as artists beyond just that. And
yeah, Rolling's
that's
not even my favorite song from them. Like, even though I always mess up the title, it's Chimat Baram is definitely my favorite from them. Like, I think that's even a catchier, more like fun song to listen to.
It's yeah, I mean my favorite of theirs is We Ride, so but it's yeah, it's obviously they spent their whole career wanting to be noticed, right? And now they're in a different spot of wanting to be noticed for something else. And certainly Chima Baram did well, and After We Ride did okay, but like Thank You didn't do hasn't had that crazy reception in Korea, like so to an extent they're perhaps starting to slip in the eyes of the public. Obviously they reached a height that was obscene and no girl group has ever reached. Like, and even come close to reaching. But now it's like, can they reignite that passion and have Korea take them seriously and have the world take them seriously? Because I don't feel like it necessarily spread to a huge international range. I think everyone became aware of the story, but I don't think that many people hopped onto the Brave Girls Stan train as a result. I think certainly a lot of people did, but not like obscene amounts of fans. You can see by the view counts and stuff that they haven't got the same level of traction. But perhaps this is a time in which they can do that.
Yeah, if they absolutely kill it, I think if they do win a round and it's not because of using a song like Rollin', that would be huge for their career. Like, that would make everyone like more internationally, and then obviously in Korea as well. I think would be like, oh, okay, wow, like holy shit, Brave Girls won doing this song or something. You know, just because the performance was amazing.
Yeah,
I hope something like that happens. I really hope Brave Girls gets like a really cool win in one of the rounds.
Yeah, I do too. It'd be nice if there were 6 rounds and everyone could win once.
Yeah,
right? Like everyone could show their absolute peak.
Although I don't, does Kepler have 6 songs to use? in
well,
Russia?
Just about, yeah. So that leaves Viviz and Hyolyn. So I guess Viviz is next.
With Viviz, I guess like they could win because like they do a G-Friend song that is like everyone loves, you know, like there's Rough and Novelera that we were talking about, though, but I think we heard that might be doing something else. So it's like what is I'm trying to remember the other major one that's like kind of cute style that everyone
Time for the Moonlight.
Yeah, there's also that. And then maybe if they do something like Bago or something too, that might be big. But I don't think Bago was ever as major a hit as their early cuter style stuff, right?
No, it wasn't as great a song as it is. Yeah, like G-Friend certainly had they certainly kind of peaked early in their career. Like 2016, certainly their real high point. But I think what's impressed me about Vivids is how driven they really seem to be. They don't at all seem like they're here to coast along and just be like, well, we've already got an established fan base and we just be cool and chill and release what we want to release and just vibe with it. Like, no, they're not here to play. They really want to push and go for greatness again. Which I have to respect massively, because I feel like if I was in that situation, I would be so much less motivated just to be like, well, we've got fans, they'll buy what we release.
We're already legendary in the industry.
Yeah, like it's chill. But I like to sit back.
Oh, we should talk about their opening performance like we did everyone else.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. Expected more would, I guess, be what I would say or something. I thought it was obviously good. I don't think any of the opening performances were bad. I just did not. This one was also not like super memorable for me. It did have kind of like a disco style thing, and they were doing like it did show. I will say theirs was really good at showcasing them individually and then bringing them together as a group.
Yeah,
which I think that's what they did the best.
Yeah, they took the time well. They used the time well to show each member. I feel like especially Shinbi and Umji were shown really well in that. I think Unha was less so, but they started off with that cool like three-way like I think it was tutting or tutting adjacent. I'm not a professional dancer.
It did have the voguing going on with the hands.
Yeah, then they incorporated voguing in afterwards, and it was like. It was cool, but it was like I'm not used to seeing that from those people, and I think that's going to be a really hard thing to shake.
Yeah,
is that no matter what, it's like I'm looking at Umji or Unha from G. Like Shinbi is a different kind of story, but Umji and Unha is like I'm so used to what I'm known from them as G-Friend. It's hard to see them doing. Even like when they were doing like Margot and Apple, it was still kind of fit. But if they're coming in and doing some like really hard shit here, it's like, wow, this is not what I have in my mind. And it's kind of not off-putting, but it throws me off,
So with theirs, I understand everyone did like a dancing style thing, but I feel like with G-Friend was so amazing vocally to me. Like I felt like if G-Friend really could have stood out in the opening performance thing, if they just like flexed some vocals on you.
But they don't have Yuju anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm thinking like it's G-Friend forgetting that they don't have the high note queen of their songs.
Yeah, the thing is like. Umji doesn't get enough credit she deserves as a vocalist, and Unha is a really strong singer. She's not Yuju level, but she wasn't far behind in terms of her role in G-Friend songs and stuff. So it can be there, but it seems like that's not what their focus is. They want to be more about the performance, which is obviously up to them. I think the other thing is that because there's three of them, it makes the kinds of stages that you can do, you're somewhat limited if you're not doing solo stage type things. Like the amount of formation and things you can do is fairly. You just have three people in different forms of a V, like a little triangle, right? Like there's not much you can do that's crazy creative. Obviously, you can kind of remedy this by bringing in backup dancers and stuff, but might be something that makes some of their stages look a little bit empty or a little bit less movement or so on if they don't have that kind of
Yeah, because they're smaller, it does feel like the members individually are gonna have to really stand out a lot.
Yeah.
In performances. And then the thing is, like, G-Friend was so recognized for like how synchronized they were.
Mm-hmm.
But is that really going to be noticeable when it's 3 versus the full group of G-Friend?
It won't look the same, yeah. And if you bring in backup dancers to do that, then you end up drawing attention away from those 3. So it's a bit of a tricky situation to be in. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how they approach that challenge. I feel like it's something they will have less flexibility when it comes to what they can do on stage. But they're pros, right? They've been at this game for a long, long time. And they're certainly also have all shown that they have a lot of creative muscle as well. Especially like Eunji has written songs and she's interested in photography and stuff. Like she has a lot of interest in making her own performances and things. Un has done production on their previous songs as well. Like I know that they have that artistic drive as well. So yeah, again, I'm sounding like saying the same thing for different groups, but I feel like they have a lot to show. But I think they might have the highest hurdle to jump over in order to be able to show it for them.
Yeah, which in their case they may want to break away from being recognized as like how synchronized we were and everything as G-Friend, and they may want to just be individually standing out when they're performing, versus like the idea of like, oh, here's how good we are synchronized as a group. Yeah, maybe they can stand out a lot if they individually just have performance like that where it's, oh look, Yuna's got this really cool part, it switches over to Eunji and then switches over to Sinbi. Like that could be interesting dynamic versus how synchronized probably the rest of the groups are going to be doing their performances.
Yeah, and maybe if it's like, well, on the one hand they might want to be like, well, we want to distance ourselves from G-Friend, we're not G-Friend, we're Viviz, and we're about something different. Like what our chants are is a different thing, and our focus on our performances is going to have a different style to what it would have been if it was a G-Friend performance.
Yeah.
But then it's going to be very difficult to shake that connection because A, obviously it's the same members and they have the same names, and B, they're going to be doing G-Friend songs because they can't just do like bop bop over and over again. They're gonna have to. They will be doing different songs, and obviously they can reimagine them, they can remix them, and they will have to change things around for 3 members and whatnot. But it's gonna be like, it's a G-Friend song, and how do you shake the? I wish the other members of G-Friend were here. How do you get rid of that from it? I feel like that's why. And I guess we'll talk about this with Hyolyn as well, but I feel like that's why Park Bom didn't do a To Anyone song when she was on the show, because it would have left you going, wow, I wish the rest of To Anyone were
here. Exactly. You'll be hearing the G-Friend song and be like, oh wow, Yuju would have had like that really high note belted out right here or something.
It's especially for Yuju, it would be like, wish Yuju was here. It's tough. But they wanted the challenge, right? That's why they carried on. That's why they've decided to rebrand it.
Yeah, the show may be like the only way where they really can separate those identities if they really pull it off in Queendom. Is like kind of really the only way for them to do that. Maybe. I want to talk about kind of Sinbi giving like all the ammunition to Mnet that they needed for that episode, because
she came in on smoke in that.
It's funny to me because like Mnet probably would have found a way, because there were so many awkward interactions, to create a scenario or something, but Sinbi was like, nah, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna she grabbed, it was Yoram, right, from WJSN, where she's the way she turned to just like like your mom just came in to scold you or something.
I got a gif of that, like Yoram just turning and like her eyes like, and then the camera pans in, and you can see the slightest smile poke her lip at the end. What I love is that you have Luda behind her going, and then like at the back you have Daeong like They're all like looking, they're like the penguins of Madagascar. Like,
was it Luna they panned to that had the member that just looked absolutely terrified as that situation was happening or whatever? It was like a younger member of one of the groups was just like, "Oh shit!"
Probably Kepler. Then I wouldn't think Luna would give a shit.
No, yeah, I think it was Kepler. It might have been like Mashiro from Kepler, like the really young one. Yeah. She just looked like terrified as that situation was happening. But I love how she's like, do you really think we're not your seniors anymore or whatever? Like flexing that on that.
Yeah, it's I mean that's the kind of stuff I look forward to most in the show is them, especially because Mnet have become so self-aware at this point. Like they really feed into they know that everyone knows about the evil editing, so they play into it, and everyone on the show knows. So they all play into it as well, and it just becomes like a whole a bit. Basically.
Someone made like a whole video I saw like don't hate Sin B. She's friends with Yordam from WJSN or whatever. Like that was like they're actually friends, so that's why she called her out like specifically.
Yeah. And the other advantage, of course, is that pretty much every one of these groups has a very good and easy way to communicate with fans. They have personal Instagrams, they have Weavers and Bubble and all these different things. It's not like Girls Planet where shit was going down and like Yanning and Yujin or Chaibing or whatever couldn't say anything while the show was airing because they were under social media embargo. They couldn't talk about it until after the show, so they were kind of screwed. And the court of public opinion had already made its judgment. But for this, it's like when an episode airs and people are mad about it, as soon as that episode airs, they can text and be like, did you see that? Lol, it was so funny. Don't worry, we're just joking around. And like immediately dispel any issues like right away, which is certainly, hopefully there won't be any issues, but can happen. And they've already started playing, and I love the way that they've been playing around on it. Like Sola saying that she wishes the dating rumors between her and Taeyeon were true. And then XC said the other day that Luna asked her what style of performance WJSN would be doing, and XE said, I told them that we would be doing a hip-hop performance. And then she was like, haha, their reactions were so cute. They were all like, wow, really? Sorry for lying, Luna. Like that's like that.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff I live for these shows. It's like the snippets and interactions between the groups and stuff. So I hope we'll see more of that stuff. I hope we see Shinbi just continuing to be on smoke and not care at all.
She almost seemed like she was like enjoying herself, like she's playing a character or something. You know, she was like overdoing it or whatever.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
You could see the members of Vivis's face would like looking at her as she started to do that, like. You know,
they were like, bro, relax. You know what's gonna happen. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, she's like, I know what I'm doing.
She's like, this episode needs some spice. I'm about to just throw it on.
She certainly brought the spice after how like, awkwardly it started. Like with Brave Girls from WJSN just sat there.
Yeah, until Kepler showed up. Like, because even when Luna showed up and things did get less awkward, it still was awkward.
It was, yeah.
And then once like Luna and Kepler had that interaction with each other, like I think it was Jin Sol was like what a thing or whatever towards one of them.
Hyunjin did that?
Yeah. One of the Luna members like broke the ice of the whole room with Kepler. Yeah. Then it finally like kind of loosened up everything. It's like.
Yeah,
because till then it was still awkward. It was like,
I mean, it is always like that, right? And then obviously Mnet makes it look more awkward than perhaps it really was.
Yeah.
But, especially because Brave Girls were very introverted. It's a very I know knowing what they're like among each other, with each other, like they're super familiar and friendly. I mean, like on a music show the other day, might have been earlier today. Yujong like just licked Minyoung's face as part of the ending fairy. Just like, so, like if like that kind of energy side of them comes out more, I think perhaps because they are a bit like, because they feel their age with some of the other groups because they're in there.
When they found out how old Mashiro was, I remember one of them started saying she's like, "There's 15-year gap between the two of you," or whatever. Yeah. She's like, "Shut up."
Stop talking. There'll be a 15-year gap between your two front teeth. Yeah, it's. I think that perhaps might be something that makes them a bit more standoffish, but I hope to see them mingle as much as
I need the Chu Taeyeon interaction in my life.
Yes.
Okay, this has to happen. Chu needs to collect another wife to her amazing harem that she has already. What is it? Sunmi, Yua, Chungha are already in Hani from EXID.
Well, yeah. Well, Taeyeon will provide, I think, a good kind of link between the groups because she's so like she's so like naturally kind of goofy and in her way, like
she just started laughing as she was
she was cracking up when she was reading her thing and just being like, "Wow, I can't believe I'm saying this." Like when we did the round one evaluation stuff, she read us the like instructions on what we had to do, and she had them a cue card in English, so she read it to us in English. And when she looked at it, she went like, because she obviously doesn't speak very good English, really, and so she like read it out, and it was fine. And then when her and Youngjin were going off the stage, she started like making fun of how she was saying it to her, and you could like she was still mic'd up. You just hear her like laughing about it
about her English.
Yeah, she brings that kind of that energy that I think will be. And obviously, the other thing is, it's like you're gonna fear your own competition a lot less if freaking Girls' Generation is in front of you and they're not the competition. You know, like,
it became like a fan meeting when she entered the room or whatever. And it's like, and look, I one of the members of Kepler, I believe it was, looked like she was about to cry as like Taeyeon walked in the room. It was like,
I mean, literally like the idol of the idols, right? Like there's so many of them, and this would have been kind of true for Hyolyn as well, but like at least for Sistar as well, that these are the kinds of groups and singers that were the reason that these people became idols in the first place.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, Yeso was 2 when Taeyeon debuted.
They showed the picture of like Shinbi too from G-Friend as a kid.
When she was like 9.
It's like it gives you an idea of like, oh damn, Taeyeon's been at this for a while. When you see that picture.
Yeah, it's I think she'll be great, and I think they won't be that like as much as I loved Lee Da-hee and Jang Sun-kyu as the hosts of the first Queendom. I thought their dynamic was really funny. I loved how Sun-kyu would try and push on with the script to try and like instigate conflict, and absolutely no one was having it, including Da-hee. He was just like, all right, settle down. And then I think perhaps the girls in the groups might suffer from, well, not suffer, but they don't quite have the same kind of, there's no Jimin, right? Like Jimin was just like, nah, shut the fuck up, son, go back to your spot, like let's not have none of that from you, and didn't care. She wasn't afraid of saying anything in front of like other groups or whatever. Whereas I feel like while some of the groups have those personalities when behind closed doors, when they're in that public environment, they're not going to be as like outspoken, and that might make for less entertaining TV. You won't have Mamamoo being like, "Hey, go fuck around with the order," and just for a laugh, you know. Like,
although Shinbi seems like she might do some stuff like that.
Maybe, Shinbi is the hope for that.
Which is funny because they're technically the most rookie group there, but they are known as such legends or whatever, that it would be like, who's gonna stop them if they're doing anything?
Yeah, it's like they technically are the youngest, but then the members are like some of the most earliest debuted or something. Behind Yeso, hilariously. And I think Yujin did TLC debut before G-Friend. I think.
Oh, really?
Maybe. I think so. Let me check. It's definitely both. I think CLC was like March 2015.
Yeah, Kepler's so youthful that I forget that Yujin has been at it for so long.
Oh no,
CLC.
That's right. G-Friend is actually 2 months older than CLC.
That's not a big gap at all. Like, that's...
No, it's enough. You will call me Sunbeam. Yeah. Well, yeah. So then there's Hyolyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the whenever, especially after having had the two like since 2022's pop up, right? Then it's since 2010, and everyone's like, "Oh snap!" Like,
yeah, someone from WJSN got up to clean the chair before she came in the room. It was
suddenly the since 2015 or since 2016 that we'd seen before was like, it didn't seem to have their confidence or like cockiness from that was like.
That right was away. One of the things. How old were Brave Girls members when they debuted? Because I thought their debut had to be way before that time. So because of Brave Girls
is a kind of complicated one because the group itself actually debuted in 2011, but those four are the second generation of members who were active from 2016. But yeah, they were in their mid 20s when they started.
Okay, that makes sense now. Back to Hyolyn. Sorry, confused me.
I was curious about it too, because like you could have put since 2011 for them as well, but it would have been like, well, it's since 2011 as the brand, but not those members. So I get why they put 2016 instead. But yeah, so Hyolyn's intro performance I thought was kind of, I won't say underwhelming, but it was just kind of like a tease. You know?
I think it's smart in the opening performances to not really show like a lot or too much of what you want to do in the show.
Yeah, but I do feel like she then also played one of her ace cards in the Dali choreography, right? Because I feel like that's one of the most recognizable things about Hyolyn, and the thing that a lot of people said when Hyolyn was announced to be on the show, everyone was like, oh shit, like she's got Dali in her back pocket, like, and that's something that
it's another thing of like Brave Girls used roll-in in their thing, and it's like,
well,
like kind of, where I was like, I didn't want.
But it was like it was just like a remix soundbite though. It wasn't like the song. But obviously, there's nothing against using the intro song again. Like T01 or TOO as they were known then, used Magnolia in their intro performance and Magnolia as the round one performance because they only had that song. But so there's nothing in the rules or anything like that. She can obviously bring Dali out if she wants to.
Yeah.
She also of course has the sister repository to call on, and I think unlike what we said about Park Bom and 21 is that Hyolyn, I think, is one of the very rare few who can do a group song by herself. Because she is so multifaceted.
You even saw the other groups say when they saw her come out, they're like, oh, she can like do this by herself or whatever, they're like, she's talented enough to do a whole stage to herself. Like, and we've seen it in like other shows we watched, like Good Girl, where she just absolutely killed it against everyone else. And
I mean, they showed Good Girl as an example of her what she's done in the past, right? And on Pretty Rap Star as well, where she didn't like tear the roof off on Pretty Rap Star, but she did more than fine for someone who wasn't especially rap driven.
Yeah, I don't think of like straight up rapper when I think of Hyolyn. So I was even surprised that I was like, oh, she was on that show, like when they were showing her.
So she's definitely the one I think people, if anyone is underestimating her or like writing her off because the numbers aren't as high at the moment, like you're a fool too, because even if she doesn't end up getting the points because of that, like lack of streaming or whatever, like just to look at things purely objectively, I think Hyolyn is gonna murder the hell out of this show. She's so good at so many different things. Like, because I think that was the thing with Good Girl, right? Is that everyone was speculating what would she do, because she's a powerful vocalist, she's a powerful rapper, she's a powerful dancer. Like, she's known for her high heels dancing and stuff like that. We know the kinds of songs that she does are usually quite sexy and like confident. And instead, she comes out barefoot and does a super vulnerable, all English song with like contemporary dance with like a nuts sustained high note in it. Like, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!" Like, and she actually obviously did that same note as part of it, kind of out of nowhere as part of her intro performance. But yeah, she's got it all, and it's going to be interesting, especially when we come to the cover round, how she's going to handle doing like a really big group, because yeah, well, so we'll have to see.
I expect, like, out of everyone there, I expect her to have like a performance that wows me the most or whatever, just because I know she can. Like, especially because I know she can flex the dancing and vocals in such an amazing way in like a single performance.
I think, having seen the round ones, it's like even when have such high expectations of Hyolyn, she can still impress. And that's the thing.
And some people are just built different, and she's like the perfect case of that, where it's like she's just different, like, you know.
And she is perhaps in an interesting spot because she doesn't have as much to prove, because this is a reputation that she has that it already is as good as it is, right? Everyone knows how good she is, but that doesn't manifest itself into crazy popularity in Korea or crazy sales worldwide or things like that. So perhaps that in a more commercial sense, that's what she's going for here, is to go, everyone knows how good I am, so fucking support me. Maybe. But it's she's in an interesting spot as the most senior artist, and by some distance, and with that reputation that follows her.
In that episode, her and Taeyeon seemed to know each other like really well, because she like just went up and like grabbed Taeyeon. Like, no one else was gonna do that, but she just like walked up and
like, "Hey, what's up, Queen?"
Like, you know,
something I'm sure you've fantasized about many times. Just walking up and grabbing Taeyeon. But
no, I don't know what you're talking about.
And I think, for knowing what Hyolyn, well, I don't know Hyolyn that well, but from having seen her on shows and stuff, she's like, she can be kind of introverted. Like, when she's with people that she's close with, she can be pretty wild. But like one shows like Good Girl and Pretty Rebel Star, she kind of was by herself, and just she wouldn't be silent. Like, she would speak up and stuff, but she wasn't like crazy out there, outgoing. So I hope she isn't kind of left isolated and doesn't feel too detached from like much younger groups or anything like that. But at least she has Taeyeon there to be a buddy if she needs it.
You remember in the original Queendom, Hyo Jung from Oh My Girl ended up like becoming really close with Park Bom.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there will be that collaboration round where one of the members from one of the groups becomes like super close with Hyolyn or something. You hope to see something like that. I think that's a cool thing when they have like the cross collaboration happening.
Yeah, if the format goes exactly the same way as we've seen before, then we will have that collaboration round, and there will be.
Chu's just gonna collect another wife. I'm just waiting for it. Chu's gonna be like, all right, I got my eyes on you.
Well, I don't know if you. I mean, I don't. This won't affect the show, I don't think. But I don't know if you saw that Chu had like a lawsuit revealed earlier today. That she filed an injunction back in December against her own company, in order to change terms on her contract. Basically,
actively in the show. That's interesting. Okay.
But well, the news just came out now. Basically, like, she did it back in December, but she basically wanted. I think the news came out now because it was successful. I think. It's basically to allow her to choose her own work, because it seems like the company was saying yes to every job offer that came in for her, and she was like
everywhere. You know, like Chu Can Do It was like constant, really consistent, all these uploads, and then you would see her on like another show or something. I think I even saw she did like a Squid Games thing with some other show or something too. It was like,
she was doing commercials and TV spots and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, she needed the
Yeah,
I think that's part of the reason why she ended up taking that time off. So hopefully that won't interfere with anything going
I don't
on in
think
the show.
Queendom's something where she's gonna be like, I don't want to do it,
Oh no,
or
no,
something, you know, at all.
no, definitely not. I think it's more going to be like, oh, another ramen commercial. Come on, like, yeah. That ramen commercial is really cute, but it's yeah. So that's just a brief aside of some current affairs. That news only dropped a few hours ago. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else there is to say about Hyolyn. It's just kind of like we know what she's capable of, and she's almost definitely going to do what she's capable of. It's just going to remains to be seen how well everyone else reacts to it.
Yeah, I think I might have the highest expectations of her performances just because I know how good she is. I guess one thing I would say, hypothetically, do you think she could bring back like all the members of Sistar and do a Sistar performance?
I think it's probably more possible than anyone else who's in a similar position that's been on these shows before. Because the Sistar members have all said they broke up because of Hyolyn wanting to. Well, they had all agreed beforehand that if any of them wanted to go solo, that they would break up because of it, and it'd be like a mutual thing on good terms and just to go their own ways. And Hyolyn was the instigator of that. And they've said that they remained on really good terms, and they were always open to the idea of doing music together at some point in the future. Hyolyn and Dasom obviously had that summer song they did last year. Whether or not they would bring. I mean, so I feel like Soyu would do it. I think Bora is going to be the one that would be hardest to get a hold of. But it could
she like acting or something full time.
Yeah, TV and stuff. But she kind of flits in and out of my at least my awareness. I don't know about how much public awareness she gets, but I feel like I've seen Soyu the most after Hyolyn. But anyway, well, whatever happens. It'd be cool if that happens. It'd be cool, obviously, if other G-Friend members came out as well. But I think that one is.
Oh, I forget. Vivis could totally do that. I mean, if Vivis flexed like the whole group of G-Friend again or whatever, I feel like they would just win outright that round or something.
I feel like it would be against their point though. Like, right? It's like we're not G-Friend anymore, and so.
Yeah, maybe Hyolyn doesn't want to do that for the same reason or something.
Well,
but I do. If Sistar came back, did a hit of theirs as a full group, like that's a dub. Like I
think she is more than capable of doing a Sistar song by herself as well. Yeah, that's the thing.
Because she's absolutely capable. I'm just thinking like impact would be massive if she the full group of Sistar to do something.
Maybe she just asks Taeyeon really nicely to do a collab with her on the show. That would be.
God. I can't even imagine Taeyeon doing a Hyolyn song. I would have a heart attack live on the stream if that happened.
You'd break another chair.
I'd break both arms off the chair.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do you want to do our ranking?
Yeah. So my ranking from memory is I thought WJSN had the best. I think next if I'm remembering from memory, I think next I would either put Luna or Hyolyn. So it's either Luna, Hyolyn for 2-3 there. Then I would do I'm thinking about the rest right now still. So funny enough, I think Brave Girls is last place for me for those performances, and then I think funny enough I'd give Kepler that 4th spot just because I had such low expectations and I was genuinely just like, you know what, good on you, kind of, and then I'd put Viviz there around that end spot. That's as far as like what was memorable to me when I watched those performances. But the thing is, WJSN to me was an easy number 1 pick out of seeing all those opening performances, and the rest just kind of all fall where they fall.
Yeah, I agree. I think my top 2 were pretty secure. So mine was, I had WJSN as a number 1. I actually had Kepler as my number 2. Luna as my number 3. Viv is at 4. Brave Girls at 5, and Hyolyn at 6.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have my round 1 rankings as well, which is very different. But I won't I won't spoil that, so we can revisit that to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe round one will air on Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday, I think 9 p.m. Korea time.
So I will see if I can get this uploaded for you guys like super quick before we do the round one opinion, because we do have a 3-hour IU podcast to upload.
Hell yeah.
For you guys to have 3 hours of us basically proclaiming IU as a goddess, as everyone already knows.
I think you're underselling our highbrow music criticism that we were.
No, we did go very in depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Was there anything else to say about episode 0, as we're calling it?
Not much. I guess I'll say that I liked the way that the different groups were shown as having received the invitation. And it's obviously those kinds of things. They feel very scripted, and I'm not sure how
Luna's
real they are.
felt the most.
Luna's felt pretty genuine.
Like,
I thought that was legit.
Did you? I thought maybe because one of the members to me looked like she just like always knew or whatever. I forget which member it was in Luna, but she looked like, oh yeah, we're on Queen. Like
right.
Like I totally didn't know we were gonna be on Queendom. I do think Chu and them like were very excited and just happy in general. Like, oh yeah, we're on Queendom. But I forget which member it was. Maybe it was Hasul, the leader, or something, where she was like, oh yeah, we're on Queen, like kind of laughing about
maybe
it.
Maybe she'd
like,
been told. Who knows?
Yeah, but she could have been told and no one else.
At least the situation, it did kind of seem real. Like the post, because I watched that concert as well, so there was like that added a bit of it. There's like, oh, that's fun. I remember watching that, and then that's them going off stage from it right into this situation. I did find the Brave Girls one really funny. I was like, why would all of Brave Girls be in a booth recording Rollin' again? Like, for what reason would they be doing this to then be given a like?
Like yeah, that is pretty funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. Hyolin's was like very calm, and she just walked in. She's like, "All right, I'm competing with someone again." You know,
what is it this time? Just pull that newspaper. Just
just sits back in her chair, just like it was. Just she was super calm about it or whatever. It seemed like.
This is par for the course for her.
The WJSN one made me laugh because I don't know what member it was, but she just got up and started like slamming the wall with her hands.
That's Dayoung, I think.
Yeah, it was like out of nowhere. She's like just banging against the wall.
I mean, I love to see how seriously the members do take it. At least of like they know after the first one what a big deal it was and how much prestige kind of came with just appearing on the show. It wasn't about winning, it was just going on the show. Especially I think they would all, even not necessarily without saying it, but they'll always point to, oh my god, as such a stellar example of what the show could do for you.
Yeah, I am curious if anyone can even come close to impressing me as much as Oh My Girl did on Queendom, though. I feel like Oh My Girl might be a very outlier situation of where they are just that impressive. You know, like they were always that impressive and they just needed to show it on Queendom or something. You know, I don't know if there's a group in Queendom that's gonna make me go, oh damn, you know, like honestly, there's not a Mamamoo to compete with in the group either, to be like we almost took out like Mamamoo or something,
right? Well, perhaps in a way, maybe obviously it's hard to tell. I think perhaps after we have the round one result, we'll get a better feel for who's in what place, right? Because I remember my girl started off not great, and they like Hyojin was crying, and they were saying how they just wanted to prove themselves. Now they already felt like they were failing at that and stuff. And then they came out and did the Destiny performance and didn't look back. But perhaps Hyolyn will be in the Mamamoo slot. You know?
Yeah, I just suppose so. Yeah, she's absolutely just killing it every time.
Knocks it out of the park in round one. Not that I've seen round one and know that she knocked it out of the park.
No, I did.
Obviously, I don't know the results, but yeah, I know who I voted for. But I do feel like the WJSN are probably the ones in the most prominent Oh My Girl-esque spots.
Like similar situation.
In terms of like how long they've been about as a group in relation to that. I think they're only a year apart. Obviously, the shows are 2 years apart, so it's a slightly different point of career for them both, respectively, but kind of similar. Similar number of members that are competing is another thing to consider, and similar kind of style where they have one prominent rapper who has very important parts of their songs a lot of the time. Although, granted, when I'm a Girl came in, Mimi was less prominent; she was more prominent after. But XE is a very dominant part. But then they also have really strong vocalists who hit crazy high notes and belts and ad libs and stuff. And then the rest of the members are very competent singers and dancers and can do a lot of. There's a lot of similarities there that I think puts them in that spot that they could reach those kinds of heights.
The hardest part, I think, would be if someone does have a similar thing to Oh My Girl in the show where they really impact like that, what they do after. Because, like, Oh My Girl after really carried that momentum forward. It's like, can you do the same thing? Can you come out with absolute bangers of songs afterwards that really make everyone continuously a fan of your group?
And about the promotion and everything, like I'm a Girl, as soon as Non-Stop dropped, they were obviously, the fact that song was a hit was a big part of it, but they were everywhere. Like they were doing so many shows and promos, and like individual members were hosting different shows on different channels and stuff. They were all over the place.
Yeah, variety shows is a really important thing that I feel like we sometimes like forget about. Like, whereas like I've seen Oh My Girl on variety shows and they're really funny because of like Seung-hee and stuff like that, where they have like really good personality on, so that makes people want them on TV more. It's like not every group has like members that can carry a variety show like that or something.
Well, it's another thing that WJ sent out, because they have Daeong. She's certainly one of those, like
the one on the wall. I can see that. Yeah,
she's certainly like a 4D personality type. I mean, like she was one of the ones who was invited on to the girl group special of Knowing Bros. And she filleted a fish in front of them. And she was there just like expertly preparing this like sashimi, and then they're like, "Oh, do you eat sushi a lot?" She was like, "No, I don't really like it." She's just like expertly filleting.
I have to watch that. That sounds hilarious. I'm gonna have to watch that Knowing Bros episode.
I'm surprised you haven't seen it already. Actually, it's great.
So, I don't know. Yeah, I think we talked everything about it, right?
Yeah.
I suppose in general, just to conclude things, I would say me and Oliver don't really care too much who actually wins the show. We just want really great performances from all the groups. It would be great if every group in this show gets some really good impact from it. Would be the best scenario. I think that could happen. Hopefully nothing really awful performance wise. I don't think any of these groups could really have something like that happen. I mean, I'm not gonna say who I think could. I'm leaving it. Okay, I didn't say it. I didn't actually say it, so no one can hold it against me.
I can't believe you disrespect Luna like that. Unbelievable.
Anyways, I think that's it. This has been episode 18. Yes, I remembered correctly, of the Kpop podcast.
Our podcast is legal.
Yeah.